Means to do podcast. My name is Ben, your host, and today we have the CEO of EQIFI Finance, Mr. Brad Y. What's going on, my man?
Lovely intro. Everything's good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing fantastic. Super glad we get a chance to chat today. Would love to just dive right in here and understand your story, how you really got to this point of being a CEO of a totally badass Web3 company.
Well, that's a long story. I'll give you the quick summary of it. I started my entrepreneurial journey really early. I learned programming at an early age, then wrote some software, sold that software, which was really exciting that people wanted to pay for something I created from scratch. And then that started a lifelong journey with technology for me and entrepreneurship because I sold that company to finish my studies. And then after finishing higher education, I started another company, a big data company, which got acquired by our first alpha user. And so I realized that I really like building stuff. I really like building stuff that benefits others and that they can use. Fast forward to 2012, started an advisory firm and an incubator because a lot of people were asking for advice, asking for investment, and I realized by myself I can't do much. In 2009, just by pure luck, stumbled upon Bitcoin. Sent me 3 files, said, Brad, compile these. You'll love them. And I thought he was just trying to take over my computer and infect me with something. So I'm like, either this is going to go really good or really bad, because I don't get this kind of endorsement for random uncompiled data files. But yeah, and that really got me very curious and interested in crypto and the potentials. From there on, it was just Litecoin, Ethereum, Mastercoin. I mean, there were a lot of early projects that were very interesting and very early too. So really, they didn't grow to their full potential. But I got more and more involved with the technology. And fast forward to today. Well, a few years back, I was speaking at a conference in Hong Kong, and someone from the audience came and said, Brad, you should definitely talk to Jason Blick. And I said, okay, where is he? Let me talk to him, because he said what you said really aligns with his vision. And I think I was talking about future of finance and banking or something like that. And so he said, oh, he's not here. He's in the Cayman, but you guys should talk. So he connected us. Me and Jason became good friends. And I always thought he lived in another country far away from me. So when we were talking, I would say, let's get together sometime. Let's plan something. And then it turned out that he was actually living 10 minutes away from me in Los Angeles. So
Small world.
Yes, we actually met up, and Jason Blick is my co-founder at EQIFI. So that's the relevance to the story. EQIFI is my 15th company that I launched with Jason. Really good.
Wait,
friend.
you said 15?
Yes, 15. Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
You know, you try things, some work, some don't, but it's always an incredible learning experience. Even through the most difficult times, you learn a lot, you know. But back to EQIFI. So Jason and I became friends in 2020. He said, DeFi is taking off. Let's do something in it. And we started working on EQIFI's white paper. Summer of 2020, once the idea became a little more fully baked and mature. And then at the 1-year anniversary of the white paper, August 2021, we launched the platform with 4 products. on top of all the banking services and products on that side. And we've been really busy growing it. We grew it to 28,000 people in the past 6 months. We have tens of millions in total value locked. And
Wait a
yeah,
second. Wait a second. Let's back up for a second.
sure.
For those who aren't familiar with the product, the like, give us the rundown. Feel free to screen share if you want, but let's actually understand like exactly what you guys are doing with the product.
Definitely. So EQIFI is a DeFi platform powered by a licensed and regulated bank, EQIBank. What we wanted to build was a one-stop shop for everyone to come and get their financial needs, whether you're in DeFi or you've never touched any crypto, but you have used bank products and services, loans, interest rate swaps, bank accounts, cards, whatever it is. We wanted to simplify that because right now, when you're dealing with crypto products, you go to a specific platform. It's blockchain specific, it's product specific. So you go there and you take care of your business. Then you need to go to a bank portal and do your banking, pay your bills, what have you. And the two are not really connected. Oftentimes, if you have any value transfer from DeFi to banking, that creates additional question marks and problems. And the problem we wanted to solve was bring reliable banking to the DeFi community, and on the banking side, bring positive returns to people with bank accounts, because the negative interest rates and fees and all those things eroding the value you've created for yourself is just unacceptable at this day and age. You have DeFi here that's returning 2-digit returns, and then you have bank accounts that's negative interest rate. We wanted to change that and connect the two, so bank accounts get good returns, DeFi clients get good banking services, and everyone's better off. But we launched the platform with 4 products.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a fixed rate borrowing and lending, that's decentralized. We have a variable rate borrowing and lending, again on the DeFi side. We have an interest rate swap, which is a really nifty product that didn't exist before.
What does that mean? What is that?
It's widely used in institutional circles in traditional finance. An interest rate product allows you to go from a fixed rate interest to a variable rate interest and vice versa. So let's say that the market is moving too fast. You have an open loan with a variable rate that's getting higher and higher, the rate that is, and you don't feel comfortable with the direction of the market. You can use the interest rate swap product, go into a fixed rate product, and then you're now fixed your interest on the loan. So
it's like yield optimization between the two products, basically.
In a way, yes. I mean, if you're the lender, yes, it's yield optimization. If you're the borrower, it's interest optimization.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what was the fourth product?
Fourth product is a yield aggregator that came out of my personal experience with liquidity pools and trying to place funds in them and benefit from the fees that they generate. I mean, since the launch of Bancor and then Uniswap, automated market makers, decentralized exchanges have created incredible fee opportunities, not speculation, not trading, but opportunities to earn fees in trades that usually are captured by the exchange itself in the centralized exchanges. That's how they make money. So I started playing around with them and realized that I was spending 2 to 3 hours going to different blockchains, different wallets, different assets, trying to optimize or maximize in some instances the return I could get on the money in these pools. And it almost became a full-time job. So I said, okay, let's be smart here. Is there a programmatic way we can do this with smart contracts so that I'm not spending 3-4 hours every day just scanning through different pools. So that's exactly what we built. We built a product that automatically looks at the blockchain every day and looks at the pools. We have a risk analysis process that looks at different points, different aspects of the pool, activity, number of wallets connected, age of the funds in the pool, and a few others. And based on those, rates the pool and says, okay, this may be, a really high return pool, but it's high risk too. Or this is a really good return pool and very minimal risk. And we take that, and the yield aggregator product automatically redistributes funds as needed.
Cool. So one thing that I'm curious about, because I feel like a lot of people, when they think of Web3 and decentralization, they want to get away from banks and centralized banks, and they want to get more control over their money, and they have more power. And so what what I'm really fascinated by and what I'm really interested in the solution that you're building is the idea of a decentralized global banking platform. Because in some people's minds, I would imagine there's almost some tension there of how do you have like a bank but also have it decentralized. So maybe you can talk about the role of, generally speaking, the role that banks need to be playing in Web3 and decentralization, and why that's so critical to be able to actually build this thing out. Because I think it is necessary infrastructure to have something like this, but I'm not the expert here. So, I really just want to understand like your thoughts on like what role this really plays in moving towards decentralization and really solving people's problems without repeating the mistakes of why we needed crypto in the past.
Excellent question. Again, probably requires several hours to properly answer. So I'll do my best in a summarized fashion. But you are correct that there has been this this mindset that it's either DeFi or centralized finance, and the two are not compatible. You either do one or the other, and we don't like one or the other on both camps. And we actually believe the future is going to be a mix of the two.
Hybrid.
It's not going to be decentralized finance destroying all of the existing financial rails and then coming out prevalent and victorious at the end of the day. And it's not going to be banks stemming innovation and squashing decentralized finance and going about it their own ways, because that's not the future we see. So with EQIFI and EQIBank, what we wanted to prove to everyone is that the two can be compatible and the two can coexist. So we wanted to take the best of the centralized finance and the best of the decentralized finance and bring them together in a way that's licensed, regulated, compliant, but at the same time beneficial to the users, inclusive, accessible, and global. Now, a truly decentralized bank today cannot exist, not because the technology is not there, but the regulatory environment is not there. A lot of the times, as much as programmatically we can define a lot of the future outcomes, regulation gives a really solid framework to all innovators to see what is accepted and what can be done within that framework. I think that's a really good, obviously it has to be sensible regulation geared towards innovation, supportive of innovation. I mean, that goes without saying. I always say heavy-handed regulation just kills innovation. That's it. Of course. I mean, then you can't do anything. Then you get these anonymous projects that say, oh, I'm not going to comply with anything because it's just BS.
Too restrictive, right?
Yeah. But if it's done in a open dialogue way, talking to the entrepreneurs, to the innovators, and all the stakeholders to see what's the best path forward, I think there is an opportunity for us to have a decentralized bank when the regulatory environment catches up with the technologies that exist and that can be delivered. And for us, it's not that we're going to become a decentralized bank yesterday. It's a journey. We want to take what's out there right now. So if you want to have any kind of bank card, any kind of fiat interaction, whether it's US dollars or euros or British pounds, whatever it is, you have to be compatible with the existing systems. A lot of us don't pay our lunch with crypto. I mean, there are some cards that kind of pretend to do it, but really not. There's no crypto rail that's connected to retail globally yet.
Like
So,
I think a good way to frame that is you can't exist in this world crypto only. Like you have to have some sort of fiat, even if you don't want to. Like you're forced to use fiat still.
well, you're not forced to. You can starve or hunt and gather your own food. I mean, you're not forced to do anything. We're not
You're
forcing
right.
anyone to do anything. But if you want to live comfortably within a large city,
Yeah,
even my super maximalist friends who don't have any fiat have to at some point find someone who's willing to take their Bitcoin for cash
that's right.
and pay with that cash.
Mhm.
In some places, other places take crypto. That's wonderful. We're really excited to see more and more cryptocurrencies accepted globally. I mean, that's has been a dream of mine. But going back to how a bank and a DeFi platform came together, right now, if you want to operate smoothly and have certain products that we're used to, I mean, most people know what a mortgage is, and most people do use mortgages because it's a very nice way to own property and not have to wait till you accumulated millions to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Now, some exciting developments are happening in the mortgage industry with crypto, but up to this point, up to last 2 years, there was no way to get a mortgage based on crypto. Like
Mm,
it wasn't
right.
even recognized. So things like that are really good examples of what we're doing, where we're bringing the two worlds together. So you can go from crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto as easy as possible. And
Mhm.
that's our goal. We want you to see one portal, whether you call it a DeFi portal or banking portal, I don't care. And you have your different currencies if you travel a lot. You have your different cryptos based on what you need. You have the crypto products like our yield aggregator, your loans,
Mhm.
everything. And then you have your checking account. You have your traditional loan on your property or your car, whatever. And you see everything together. And you can go from one to the other seamlessly. And that's the genesis of EQIFI, simplifying and bringing them together so that eventually, as more regulation comes, we can make it more and more decentralized and still compliant, still regulated, give people that peace of mind that, their money's not going to disappear. We're not going to get hacked. We're not going to go around spending company money and uh, mismanage funds because we're audited every year and our regulators look at what are we doing with the funds that
Trust.
exactly. So I think that's going to be the future. What can DeFi projects like ours do to get to that future faster is become more transparent and more trustworthy. I mean, to this
Mhm.
day, we still see projects that rug pull their stakeholders, token holders, disappear,
Right.
crash. It just gives the industry a bad name, to be honest. And on the banking side, they need to be more open to technological innovation and more open to sharing the value created with their stakeholders.
Of
Because
course.
I remember the days when you could open a bank account, a checking account, and get 5% interest in that. I mean, you open a checking account, interest bearing, and they gave you 4.99% interest on it.
It's
This
amazing.
wasn't that long ago. I mean, this was just maybe 20 years ago. And all
Now
that
it's
value,
0.01%.
Yes, all that value has been eroded. Why? I mean, it's still the same bank. It's still the same investment activities they're overtaking, and we just need to fix that. So that's why we're bringing the two together and then helping both industries evolve to the future we want, which is inclusive, decentralized, and accessible.
I love that. So the dream is anybody can live how they want to live with whatever currency they want, and they can fluidly go and buy the things they need to buy, spend the things they need to spend, earn the yield they want to yield, earn the yield they want to earn, and it's just easy. Is that kind of the dream? Like let's say I was the ultimate maximalist of the Crypto Gaming Institute coin, CGI coin, which doesn't exist yet. Um, so let's say I wanted to do everything in CGI coin. Is the dream where I can come to the platform and I can exist with, 10 trillion CGI coins, and I can pay my rent, pay my mortgage, pay for groceries, pay my expenses, and I can invest with it, and I never have to leave CGI coin unless I really want to, because you're almost helping me be super fluid between the different currencies, and you're just basically bringing the infrastructure to kind of swap or switch or do whatever I need to do with where I can remain in one currency, and you kind of abstract away all the difficulties of being a multi-currency world.
Well, that's not a dream. That's going to be a reality this year. But yes, the end goal is you stay in currencies you want, and we allow you to do everything and use all the services you need without worrying about what happens on the back end. So if your coin is on Solana and you want to buy an NFT, right now you would have to move your Sol to an exchange it for ETH, move the ETH back to a wallet you control, and then buy your NFT. So that's going to be the process, the simplest way.
It's
Uh,
expensive, it takes too long, and it's kind of complicated.
it can be, yeah, it can be all of those things, and the goal is for you to say, I have my coin, I want to use it to buy NFTs. You click and buy NFTs, and we do all the hard work on the back end. And then you have your NFT in a wallet. You don't even know it's in what blockchain it's on. I mean, I think the biggest barrier to entry right now for a lot of people who are not in crypto is which blockchain do you start with? I mean,
Right.
obviously, I've been lucky. I was there at the beginning, so I started with Bitcoin, not
Mhm.
because I knew something better than others, but that was the only thing. There was Bitcoin. Then
Right.
Litecoin came, and I'm like, okay, let me look at this one. But there were so few of them up until 2016. There weren't 2 dozen major blockchains to choose from. Well, fast forward to 2022, there are. So now people are looking at it and they're like, well, there's Avalanche, there's Phantom, there's Polygon, there's Ethereum, there's Bitcoin forks that are still around. I mean, where do I start? What is the right starting point? And it's very confusing. So we want to simplify that for the new retail users and make it as seamless as, do you want to see the value on your accounts in US dollars? They'll all look like US dollars. And then you may have 4 different cryptocurrencies in there, but you don't have to worry about it just because of the products you're using. Do you want to see it in Bitcoin only? You can have it denominated in Bitcoin. So as far as you're concerned, that's the Bitcoin you have. And then on the back end, maybe we're moving some of them to stable coins, some of them to fiat, so you can use it. So if we, our dream is to get to a point where it's super simple for those who need that simplicity to use it, which is most bank users and most people trying to get into crypto. And then of course have an expert mode on where you can export your wallets out and pick the wallet address and do everything specific to your needs because you know how to do it. And maybe you say, hey, I just want to use this coin to go into this pool and I don't want you to aggregate anything. And that's fine too.
So I think this is incredibly necessary for us to really, okay, so like my North Star, what I'm always going for is a fully interoperable metaverse. Like I want to be in the metaverse. I want everything to work together, to play nicely together. I want it to be open and easy for everybody so we could all just move into that future and it's better for everybody and everything gets what they needed. Everything gets what they need. So this to me is a critical building block to nail down on the way to accomplishing that vision and that dream, right? However, I can imagine that there are going to be an unbelievably large number of obstacles to actually get there. So I'm curious, if you're saying this is happening in a year, how are you actually doing that? And maybe it's like, or maybe you just make it really attractive on the front end for people to be like, this is how I do things. And then you're like, this is the real cost of doing it. And then maybe it's just easier for them to understand how to do it. And you're performing all of the, like you're executing all the different things that need to happen on the back end. And then they just get the result that they need. I don't actually know. That's what I'm trying to understand is like, how does that actually happen where I could live in a completely, let's say ETH or BTC world, but still, use all the things I want to use? Like, how are you actually accomplishing that on your side?
Well, it's not simple. It is. It can get complicated, but I'm glad you mentioned metaverse because through this vision of bridging the divide between banking and DeFi and bringing those two together, the next step of that vision was to bring all blockchains together. Because now that we connected banking and crypto, well, crypto is not one uniform thing. It's not just one blockchain. There's several of them. So now we're connecting different blockchains together. And so the value transition transfer can be really simple again. And then we realized we also want to be the bank of the metaverse
Of
because
course.
that's going to be a part of our future. Maybe a big part, maybe a small part, but it's not going anywhere.
No, it's
So
the
now,
future. That is the logical conclusion of everything that's happening right now. Is we end up there in the metaverse. That's exactly where we end up.
so now we're connecting the metaverses too. We have partnerships with 4 metaverses, and we're going to add all of them together. Because when people ask me what is your vision of the metaverse, I say it is the metaverse, not metaverses where it's disconnected and you have to log into one and then get out and log into this one. One is 2D, one is 3D. No,
Right.
I envision a future where everything is connected and we want to be the financial plumbing. We want to do all of the value transfers between the metaverses, between different coins, between different play
Of
to earn
course.
platforms and everything. So the way we're approaching it is basically one connection at a time. We connected Ethereum, then we connected Binance Smart Chain. Now we're connecting Bitcoin. Then we're going to connect maybe a Polygon or Tezos or Phantom, one of those. And we're in talks with a lot of these blockchains. Then we're connecting the metaverses. And then eventually, the technology, the design of it is not that difficult. The development and testing and making sure nefarious characters can't exploit anything. That's the biggest challenge. So by approaching it methodically and adding only one new piece at a time, we want to make sure that we do it right, and eventually everything is compatible with everything else, at least from our perspective on our platform.
I love that. So you're picking out the highest EV group to work with who's open to doing it. And okay, let's go build with them and build the bridge. And then once you have that bridge built once, it seems like then network effects, they get access to the rest of the ecosystem and you can just keep adding bridges. And then once you kind of solve for that on a tech level, well, now it's just plugging new people into the ecosystem, and then everything kind of works really well together. Uh, Please correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems kind of like what you're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, technologically, it's more complicated because it's not
Oh,
just
of
take a
course, of
line of
course.
code and it's connected. You know, build the bridge, build the APIs, test it, see how many layers of code needed, what type of environment the metaverse has or the blockchain has. Obviously, there are blockchains highly compatible with Ethereum. Those are much easier to incorporate. Have blockchains that don't use EVM, they don't have EVM. So, you know, the Rust-based blockchains, then you need to adapt to that and their functionality and capabilities. So it's just one step at a time, but a really exciting journey.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, it would be really nice if, everybody that needs to work together could hop on a quick call, be like, "Hey, let's work together in this way and that way." You shake on it, and then it's just, it just happens from there. But no, there's like a lot of building that has to go in to form all these bridges and to actually execute on everything. So that's really really interesting. Yeah. So I want to talk about this idea of the metaverse and building the plumbing for that, right? Because I think if somebody is in the Web3 space right now, and if you're in it, if you're playing in it, if you're trying to build a career here, if you don't see that everything is going to the metaverse and everything we're doing in DeFi and with games and with any other application of crypto with DAOs, like everything, everything is going to converge and live in the metaverse, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be this Ready Player One esque, Snow Crash esque, like virtual reality, completely 3D thing, full immersion, like with the headsets or the chips and everything. Right now, everything that's not physical, everything that is digital, that is the metaverse. So we're all going there, right? And this idea of building the plumbing is incredibly, incredibly important. Important. How do you see as tackling the financial plumbing? What do you see as the biggest obstacles as far as building out that plumbing and reaching the scale and the vision that you really want to reach, possibly including in the answer just some of the questions, some of the obstacles we need to tackle in the grand metaverse as a whole, because obviously that'll affect you, but like what are the biggest obstacles we need to tackle to get there?
Well, I mean, with any kind of infrastructure build out, whether it's physical or digital, um, there are three things that are extremely important and you can run out of. It's time, money, and education. So we need to educate people so that they understand what we're doing and the value of it. You know, when we talk to our metaverse partners, yeah, they want to issue a debit card to their stakeholders. They love that idea. They say, oh, if I can have a decentralized credit card and, Cobra, but any card issuing partner can give them a branded card. It won't be connected to anything crypto, but it'll be branded and people can use it. So the nuances there of how their native currency can be connected to this card so people can create value in the metaverse and spend it in their real lives, or vice versa, work hard and then spend it in the metaverse. So that is still a huge educational piece, both for the denizens of the metaverse, the citizens that exist there, and the creators of the metaverse. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Um, Time is very important, timing, because as more and more entities are coming into the metaverse with their flavor of how they want to shape it, um, we have to act timely to establish ourselves across board with everyone. Like Facebook coming into the metaverse can be a really positive thing because hundreds of millions of people can suddenly learn the terminology, experience something really good, or it can be really negative if it's and no one can go in and out of it unless you're using your Facebook headset and using Facebook internet connection, whatever they're trying to do. That could be really detrimental because if it's not connected, then you're creating the same divisiveness that existed so far, at least in the
Right.
physical space, like my country, my culture, your culture, like constantly dividing and proliferating that division as opposed to saying, hey, we're all humans and we're
Bring us
different
together.
and that's beautiful, but let's do stuff together. And the ongoing war from last week is a prime example of that. Two
Right.
people so close to each other culturally and mentality wise are waging war for no reason at all. But not to get political. And then money, of course, infrastructure projects require a lot and a lot of investment. We're lucky that there are some incredible projects that raised a lot of money in the metaverse. So they're growing, they're building, but we need to, if we say we are the financial plumbing of everything, we need to be prepared to deploy more capital and faster, because at the end of the day, um, you want to have one system that connects everything. Visa and Mastercard. I mean, they have different branding, but they own each other, and that's the rails for debit and credit cards. Aside
Right.
from that, no other business succeeded just because you only need one good plumbing that works. You don't need two, you don't need three. So us being first to market is the first mover advantage is huge for us. But if there are more competitors that enter the space and say, "Oh, we're going to do exactly the thing you guys are doing," again, that's a challenge that we're willing to accept, but that would be a challenge just because once someone establishes themselves as the plumbing of the metaverse, I think that's going to be the tool used. No one's going to come and create a side plumbing unless there's something missing, right? So
Hmm.
if you look at credit card rails, Swift, IBAN, there's only one of these things because we just need one that works, that is inclusive so people can connect to it. And once that's there, off to the races.
So that inevitably then brings the question of, if it is, again, it's this back and forth of, we absolutely need the plumbing, and we only need one set of pipes and one unit of plumbing, and we still need to keep in mind that this it's almost a public good for the metaverse. And so we have to keep in mind that the need for decentralization and for the ability for everybody to participate is critical, because we don't want Visa to own everything and Visa to have sole discretion to make decisions that then affect everybody because they own the plumbing. So, how do you balance that need for, okay, well, you guys have to make decisions as a brand, as a business, and you have to be able to execute and to do things you need to do. And what we're talking about here is becoming the plumbing and infrastructure for the metaverse that affects everybody and that everybody's going to use. And so that with that comes enormous implications of like responsibility and the need to like serve the whole world in a really the whole digital world, the whole metaverse, like in a really appropriate way. Like, how do you think about that? How do you think about these ideas?
Well, that you just answered the question in your first sentence, so that's an easy one, to be honest, Ben. Um, we believe in decentralization, and obviously to involve regulators, a gradual decentralization. So obviously becoming the plumbing of everything financial in the future is a very lofty and long-term goal. It's not like today or this year or 2 years from now. That's going to take time. But our approach is, our motto is community-powered banking. We believe in involving, including, and listening to our community, which we have done. Of the last 4 or 5 sprints we did since we launched the platform, all the decisions were influenced, if not made, by the community. They asked for something, they needed something, and we delivered it, whether it was constructive feedback on functionality or UX of the platform or additional features or what have you. So I think in order to become that vehicle that carries all the transactional volume and all the financial movements of the metaverse, we will have to, one, be supported by all the players in the metaverse, both financial and creator community. So that's important. And two, be decentralized. And that's, again, we have intentions and plans to spin off certain technologies once they become mature enough and widely used enough to a different model, and not necessarily be the gatekeepers of it. Because the foundation model, the decentralized development model, works really well. So in success, when we see that level of adoption, we do want to slowly take that off of our hands and create a community governance model around it, so that everyone feels that it's theirs. Decision making, we can make good decisions, we can make unselfish decisions. That's really not difficult at all, at least for us, because we believe in this ecosystem and the community. But the importance is once you build something, how do others feel about it? Are they liking it? Are they using it? Do they feel ownership of it? Do they feel this is my platform, this is my protocol to use? And that's the biggest question. How do we get from, oh, EQIFI is connecting everything, to my platform is connecting everything, whatever it's called. It could be EQIFI, it could have a new name, but we need to get to that level of community adoption, community at large. And that's going to be a challenge with more traditional players. I can see that. Crypto community, we're pretty used to DAO models. We're pretty used to foundations and communities managing very large projects. Look at the Ethereum Foundation, the Bitcoin Foundation. They're not perfect, but they do embody that philosophy. So within our community, I know we can do it. But now you're talking about, Facebook coming in, and Visa and MasterCard, and we don't want to cut those people out, right? If we're saying we're giving access to people, you can't just say, well, I'm just going to give access to this group of people because they've been whatever excluded, but the people who were a part of the previous system, they can't come in. That's not access. That's not inclusion. So we need to have an inclusion mindset that involves all of the incumbents, all of the established entities, to feel comfortable and know enough about what we're building to be a part of it. And that's the biggest challenge. We work very closely with institutional partners, and everyone, sometimes asks, well, are you guys like just institutional focused? And we're like, no, we welcome everyone. But the institutional partners are going to take the longest to understand and adopt because of their structure, and I want to exclude them. If we create the pipes, well, we can't, and we don't want to. Even if we can, even if a country comes and says, you build the infrastructure, you can exclude whomever you want. I don't want to. I want everyone to be connected. Yes.
We can't afford to, because if we're all trying to fight to build the same thing and just have a better version of the same thing than everybody else, then that's not going to be nearly as efficient and as effective as all coming together to contribute to one thing and build it really, really well. And what I think this then sets up is, and this is actually also a question too, is, and I almost think this could be the biggest long-term issue. I think you did a really good job of articulating the short, medium term issue of like integrating and implementing and getting everybody there. But what happens in 100 years from now, or let's say 200 years from now, when the plumbing of the metaverse is still necessary, but you and I may not be around to be implementing still and be building still? Okay, well, how do you handle transition of decision making? How do you handle transition of asset allocation? How do you handle transition of governance? And that at that point, yeah, it becomes super important. The like governance becomes super important because whoever makes decisions around the plumbing of the metaverse is going to have an unbelievable amount of power and influence over the entire world and all of humanity. So I think even the bigger issue later on down the road is what happens long term with who gets to decide what happens with the plumbing of the metaverse. So how do you think about that? How are you how are you trying to solve for that now? I recognize that maybe that's not the biggest issue on the docket right now because, you're still in like the build and make it happen phase. But still, let's say 5, 10, 15 years down the road, like everything has worked out according to plan. Like, okay, well now what? What happens then?
Well, we always think about it from two aspects. So there's the governance issue, and a lot of the decentralized governance models are being built and tested to a certain extent, and we're following those closely because if I don't reinvent the wheel about governance, I'm happy not to do it, right? We don't want to solve every problem. We're focusing on financial stuff, on banking stuff, DeFi stuff. I would love for someone else to come up with a governance structure and system that works really well and that we can implement. But short of that happening, we are going to start thinking about that governance model in the second phase of the platform. Right now, we governance elements. We're implementing more community. You're talking about an interplanetary future, 200 years, where we may not even all be on the same planet. So how do we governance in a situation like that? That's that requires some thoughtful deliberation about what does that entail, what system we want, and what has worked in the past. So if we don't want to base our governance on traditional systems, it would be a question much better suited to answer maybe 10 years from now, when we see all the decentralized governance models that are being built and tested right now. When we see the results of those, what worked, what failed, how did that DAO fail, or how did this DAO become very successful and stable, and take that learning and then implement the best parts of it. As far as the second aspect, is, of course, who's coming on to the ecosystem, right? That's another process that needs to take its due time. We signed our first Metaverse partnership last year, so 3 months ago. I mean, in 3 months and 4 metaverse and about 4 chains, we're at the beginning of this. Once we see not the final picture, but at least the mature picture of this, how many blockchains, how many metaverses, then it's going to be a lot more interesting to start working on the structure of that model, to see how the decisions are made, who need to have an input, and how do we change governance as needed? Like, these are all really big questions to answer, and we don't want to answer them just two of us, three of us, five of us. We want to have a consortium around that other smart people come in and say, hey, I tried this, or if I'm going to be a part of it, this is what I expect, and really shape it based on the community feedback again. But this time, community in general, like all the players that are connecting to the metaverse and our platform.
And so just to make sure I understand, what you're saying is for EQIFI specifically, as you guys go out and build more partnerships and you have more people that you're building plumbing for, you want to integrate those people into the decision-making process. And so be more community driven in that way, where the biggest movers and shifters and the people who have actually built, they are coming together and being leaders of the discussion. And then perhaps through those folks leading the discussion together, that then trickles out into the greater communities that are then being served by all of those leaders. And then through that sort of discussion and learning from how, experiments of DAOs between now and then, through those things, we can come together and build the best way to do it, or at least give it our best shot at building the best way of tackling this and doing it in a really appropriate way. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's basically the starting point. And then, of course, the one complicating element is, if we do want to build something global and widely accepted, we need to pull in the regulators. So at some point, we need to do a lot of educational work on what a DAO is, what a community-driven structure, which exists in some countries and others it's really foreign. What that means and how that can be regulated in those specific countries and geographical zones. Because in order to include everyone, again, I always smile when people say, oh, we're excluding United States from our ICO, from our token sale, from the platform. And I'm like, okay, I thought, we were doing all this decentralization and everything to be inclusive and bring more people in, not just say, well, I'm doing the best project, it's going to be a global DeFi, and we're excluding all US. I'm like, okay, that's doesn't work for me, but great that you guys are doing that. So we can't just be like, we're going to exclude IP ban this jurisdiction because, again, the people there don't want to play ball with us. I mean, we can, and we have been, but that's not an inclusive future. Exactly. We can't afford to. You put it very nicely. So that is going to be very important, to bring all of the jurisdictions together and agree on something that we can all use. And as light touch as it is, more chances that it will be widely adopted and more people will agree to it. Because everyone's laws are different. Every country's expectations are different. Some are more commerce driven. Some are more politics driven. And we need to find a framework that everyone says, okay, if this exists, this is acceptable, and we'll let our group of players come and play. And then once we accomplish that, I think we'll have a clear definition of a DAO, what it can and it can't do. We can start implementing truly global, community-driven infrastructure projects and have participation. I mean, that would be amazing.
I love it. I love it. And I know we're getting close to time here, so I think that vision of what we just articulated, I think if we hold on to that and we keep building towards that, I think we're going to make it. I think we're all going to make it. And on that note, I just want to say thank you so much, Brad, for coming on the show today, sharing everything that you have, and I mean, I really love your approach and just the way that you're thinking about this stuff. And really appreciate you and everything you're building and the time you shared today. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me. We're excited to do this. It's more of a passion project. I'm very passionate about what we're building and how it can impact people's lives positively. So everyone watching, check out the platform, eqify.com, and give us feedback. Use the yield aggregator, earn some yield on it, and let us know how the experience was, and hopefully we'll see you somewhere in the metaverse.
Love it. Thank you again, Brad. Everybody watching and listening, thank you, and I'll see you all